Hello everyone and welcome back to Java Forever course. Currently we are learning about subprograms, also called functions. And in today's class we are going to learn about the function structure. We'll dive deep into it and understand various pieces of a function. Now, before I begin, I would like you to remind that a function, also called subprograms or methods, all three are interchangeable words. When you write a subprogram or a function, it works or behaves exactly like a regular Java program. It has its own set of inputs. If you remember, every program that we do has inputs. Then we perform some processing, and then this on those inputs, of course. And then finally our process or processing returns some output. That is what any Java program does. And so the function will do the same thing. Keep this in mind when you are writing a function. It will be very easy to understand when you have this, when you remember this part, that every function or every program for that matter requires one or more input, usually takes one or more input. Then we do some processing, some logical algorithm we apply on the inputs, and finally calculate output. Let's take an example. We will suppose we want to take two numbers and we want to add it in its most simplest form. Though it does not require you to write a function, the idea is making it reusable so that I don't have to repeat a block of code every time. So package that block into a function. Let's say we want to add two numbers and we want to do it at 50 places. Rather than writing the same logic everywhere, we can write a function or a method, and we can call this or use it from multiple places. If you remember, you have a program, your main Java program, and this can call one or more function. Let's call it calls function 1. Function 1 internally can call another function called function 2, or program may call one more function called function 3. So function 1 and function 2, function 1 and function 3 are directly called inside the program. Function 1 may call function 2, and in fact function 3 may also call function 2. So it depends on how you structure your program. Again, you don't want to create too many levels within the function. It becomes a little hard to manage your code, but it is very much possible. Java does not restrict you from creating your levels of functions. But typically, I would not create too many layers. I usually go maybe one level or two level, maybe in some cases 3 level deep. Now coming back to our function, we are going to look into this code that we have written here. And in this code, you can see that this function I'm writing as an static. So don't worry about it. When I talk about object-oriented programming, I talk more about it. I want you to focus on core programming right now. So we'll say static, and then we'll say void. The reason I say void is this function will not return anything. Typically, a function, when you write it, you say, let's say I'll say public, and again I will explain public and private later. Public static, and we'll say double, and say add numbers. We'll take double A comma double B. This is going to be my function. Now in this code, there are a couple of things we are doing. As you can see that this function has a name called add numbers. This function name, it follows the same convention as we do for a variable name. It has to be an alphabetical. It can have a numbers, but it has to start with an alphabet. You cannot have spaces, but you can have underscore. All the rules that we apply on a variable, naming convention, it applies same on the function. Now, each function has a name, and in the parenthesis, we provide a list of inputs we require. For example, this function requires two input. One is double A and another variable double B. And again, in Java or any programming language for that matter, in general, when you declare or use a variable, you also need to define the data type. For example, I am taking two variables A and B, and A is going to be of type double, B is going to be of type double. But at a high level, there are two inputs in this program, in this function. So a function has a name. Number one, a function has a name. Number two, function has list of inputs in the parenthesis, like this, with the data type. Third, this function will return a value. Suppose we want to add two numbers. What we are going to do, we will declare a variable that will become our output variable. And we'll say double, let's call it result. And then we want to return this variable result. This is the basic skeleton of a function. This function will return a number of type double, and you can see here that I am ultimately returning. Anything and everything goes in between here. I'm going to write what will happen, how do I process the input, how will I calculate the value of result. But whatever I do, that is part of the processing. So if you remember my diagram, this is your input, this and this line ultimately is your output, and all these curvy lines here, this is where we are going to write our processing statement. Okay, now let me show you that I'm going to remove this processing line here, and in this case, since it is pretty straightforward, I'm going to write our logic of calculating the result, and that's pretty straightforward. All we have to do is to say result equal to A plus B. That's it. This is going to be a pretty straightforward one line of processing, but in many cases it is not as simple. You will do a lot of logics, formulas, equations, whatever, however you want to implement it. Ultimately, you want to return a result. Take another example here on the screen, that where I'm talking about that I'm taking input as a radius to calculate the area, and then processing takes, and it says math.py and radius multiplies, and then finally calculates the area, and it returns the area, which is a double number. Now one thing you will notice, it also has a return type, the return value, and with type. What I mean by that is, I said that this variable is going to be of type, let me change this color, it's going to be a double number. My result ultimately is going to be double, and that is what I declared here just before the name of the variable. I said this variable will return a double. It's like I committed that I will return a double, and that's why I have to comply in the code that I must return a double value. So usually it returns a value like result, and with the type I already declared in the beginning. So again, a quick recap: a function has a name. Function can take one or more inputs inside a parenthesis, and it will return a value with a data type. Now it is also possible that a function does not return a value in Java. Why wouldn't it return a value? In many cases, you just want to process and update the variables, and I'll take a couple of examples later in this chapter. But it is possible that you just want to print something, or you want to calculate a variable value that is declared, above this function, outside the function. And I'll give you examples. But as you can see, suppose outside this, within the calling program, you declare, this is your program. This is your main program. In this main program, suppose you create a variable called A. Then you call a function or define a function and call functions and set the value of A here. I'm not returning anything. All I'm doing is setting the value of A. This value of A is basically updating the main value that is declared at your main program. And in that case, the function doesn't need to return anything because you did some computation and ultimately updated the value of a, which is declared outside the main function. In that case, you really don't need to return. Or if your function is simply printing an output on the screen, then also you don't need to return anything. But if you're not returning anything, you will declare that as void. Otherwise, you have to specify the data type. If you are returning a Boolean value, you will say Boolean. Returning a number, say whole number, you will say int, and so on. So now these three things together is called signature of the function method. A method has a signature that consists of a name and a return data type and a set of parameters, input parameters. Okay, that's all about the function structure. We will dig a little deeper into it, more about the functions, and we will learn how to write our own function. So far we have used other people, the functions already provided by Java to us. We'll learn how to write our own function, how to improve the code by reusing a function, a code written inside a function. Then thank you very much. That's all in this class today. I'll see you guys again in the next class. Go ahead and practice, because this is the only way you will learn coding. Thank you again. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. Do subscribe and press the bell icon for more videos.